They bulldozed my wife's memorial garden to build their luxury resort, and when I tried to stop them, they called the cops on me for trespassing. That same HOA president, smiling like a shark, held up some fake paperwork and said my land now belonged to the community. 2 months later, that same woman had to hand me the keys to her million-dollar resort because I was now the legal owner of it. I still remember that day like a burn that won't fade. I'd just come back from the VA, exhausted the way you get after too many fluorescent lights and too many questions you've already answered 100 times. The only thing that ever grounded me was the sound of my truck tires crunching down my gravel driveway, the smell of pine and wet dirt, the sight of Sarah's dogwood tree standing proud behind the house. That little patch of land was peace itself, 20 acres my father bought after the war, and the home my wife and I built with our own hands. It wasn't much, but it was ours. That day peace was gone. The rumble hit first low, heavy mechanical. I thought thunder was rolling in. Then I turned the corner and saw a bright yellow bulldozer clawing a trench through my backyard, my land. A young guy in a hard hat leaned against a pickup flipping through blueprints. I asked him what the hell he thought he was doing. He didn't even flinch. New clubhouse old-timer, HOA project. Take it up with the president. 10 minutes later, a white SUV pulled up like it owned the place. Out stepped Karen Whitmore. Perfect hair yoga pants that probably cost more than my truck holding a clipboard, like she was about to issue a citation. She smiled that fake suburban smile and said, "Mr. Tiller, there seems to be some confusion about our community improvement project." I pointed to the old iron property stake. "That's my line. You're 100 yards onto my land." She actually chuckled. "Oh, those old markers are obsolete. The county updated the records. This is now common ground. Clubhouse pool cabana's going to be wonderful for property values." I tried to tell her about Sarah's tree, the one we planted for our anniversary. I said, "Please just don't touch that tree." For half a second I thought I saw sympathy. Then she smiled again and said, "I'm sorry for whatever personal attachment you may have, but we can't let sentiment stand in the way of progress." That night I tore through my father's old files, deeds, tax receipts, surveys, every scrap of paper that proved this land was mine. I mailed copies to the HOA by certified post with a polite but firm letter demanding they stop construction. I thought fax would fix it. I was wrong. 3 days later, a law firm envelope arrived. Cease and desist. They accused me of trespassing, of harassing contractors, of interfering with community development. I looked out the window, and where the dogwood had stood, there was only sky. That was the first time in years I felt rage cold enough to shake. They hadn't made a mistake. They'd stolen something sacred. Neighbors started whispering. At the hardware store, one of them said, "Jack, it's just business. The resort'll add 50 grand to our home values." Even the folks I used to help with lawnmowers crossed the street when they saw me. They called me confused, said I was slipping, so I did the only thing I could. I sat. Every morning I set up my old aluminum folding chair right at the edge of where my land used to be. I watched them pour concrete where my wife's flowers once bloomed. I didn't yell. I didn't move. I just watched. But after a week of that silence, I felt something inside me harden. They weren't mistaken. They were playing a different game, one I didn't know the rules to. It was time I learned. That night, I opened my father's old file box again. At the very bottom was a brittle envelope I hadn't touched in decades. Mineral rights and surface estate agreement. My father had been a geologist. He'd once told me, "What's on top of the land is only half the story." I started reading, and there it was. Surface rights in perpetuity. The HOA had claimed the surface title, but never checked for the mineral deed. That old document gave me senior ownership superior title. The land might look theirs, but legally I still owned the ground they were building on. I called a title specialist, a quiet man, in an office above a bakery. He studied the papers for hours, then leaned back and said, "Mr. Tiller, they built a house of cards on your foundation." I walked out of there feeling taller than I had in months. Next I hired David Chen, a land use attorney. Sharp eyes, calm voice. No promises, "Their oversight is significant," he said, and that was enough for me. Then I called an old Navy buddy, Mike "Grinder" Grantham, a geotech engineer. I asked him to quietly inspect the construction site. Meanwhile, I created Dogwood Properties, LLC. I wasn't just Jack the old vet anymore. I was a corporate entity. Corporations don't beg, they enforce. Our first move was bait a polite letter to the HOA offering to lease them the land for $100 a year. They ignored it, of course. That's when I struck. With Grinder's cousin's help, I learned their HOA office building wasn't even owned by them. It was being sold off by a desperate landlord. I bought it in cash through my LLC. Suddenly, every time Karen strutted into her office, she was trespassing on my property. Grinder's report came next. Turns out they'd built the resort directly over an old municipal water main, an easement still legally active, and the foundation too shallow. One good frost and the whole thing would crack like an eggshell. Unsafe, illegal, a liability nightmare. David filed a report with county code enforcement and sent a detailed notice to the HOA's insurance company outlining every violation. Within days, a county inspector showed up. Work slowed, then stopped. The gossip spread like wildfire. Karen tried to spin it, called an emergency meeting, blamed me, told everyone I was a bitter old man sabotaging progress. But I could see it cracks in her perfect mask. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I sat in my kitchen one night staring at Sarah's picture and felt tired. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I was just an angry old fool fighting a losing war. For a moment, I thought about selling, leaving the mess behind, starting over somewhere quiet. But then I looked out the window at the empty patch where her tree used to be, and I heard her voice in my head. "Don't let them take what matters, Jack." That was the moment I decided I wasn't done. 2 weeks later came the flyer, grand opening gala for the Harrison Woods Landing Summit Club. Karen's name glittered in gold letters. She was trying to make her theft official turn crime into celebration. I smiled. If she wanted a show, I'd give her one. On the night of the event, I put on my old dress blues. The uniform still fit the medals heavy on my chest. David Chen picked me up with 2 licensed surveyors and a local reporter I'd tipped off. The place looked like a wedding reception, string lights, champagne, the mayor shaking hands. Karen shone under the spotlights, dripping confidence. When she tapped her glass to speak, the crowd hushed. "Welcome to the future of Harrison Woods Landing," she said. "We are a community that doesn't let anyone or anything stand in our way." People clapped. That's when a car pulled up outside. The county inspector stepped out, red notice in hand, and walked straight to the podium. He handed her the paper and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Ma'am, this event is over. This structure is under active code investigation. Access is prohibited until further notice." Silence. Then outrage. Karen grabbed the mic, face red. "This is harassment. This man," she pointed at me, "he's behind this. He's a confused, vindictive old—" "Actually," David interrupted, stepping forward calm as a surgeon, "he's the property owner defending his rights." He clicked a button on his laptop. The HOA's projection screen lit up, not with their promotional video, but with 2 maps. One, the original county plat from 1958, my father's signature still visible. The other, the HOA's forged survey, bright red lines cutting through what was mine. The surveyors unrolled a live boundary map for everyone to see. David's voice cut through the murmurs. "This resort sits entirely on land never legally transferred. It was stolen." Then came the final blow. From the speakers, Karen's recorded voice filled the room. "I don't care what his old papers say. We have the county on our side. Bulldoze whatever you have to." The crowd gasped. Someone shouted, "You tore up his wife's garden!" The noise swelled boos. Accusations reporters snapping photos. The mayor quietly slipped toward the exit. Karen's smile collapsed. She threw the mic down and stormed out, pushing through her own neighbors. By morning, it was everywhere. Local news ran the headline, "HOA Resort Halted Amid Land Theft Claims." Insurance canceled their coverage. The county opened an investigation. Within a week, Karen resigned for personal reasons. Their lawyer begged for a deal, return the land, pay damages. But I didn't want money. I wanted accountability. My attorney drafted a counterproposal. The HOA would complete the resort to full code pay, every fine, every bill, then sign ownership of the finished property over to Dogwood Properties, LLC. They agreed. They had no choice. Months later, their crown jewel stood gleaming, and it was mine. Karen's kingdom, built on lies and arrogance, now bore my family's name on the deed. I didn't celebrate. I just walked out to the spot where Sarah's tree had been and planted a new sapling. The soil was heavy scarred, but it still accepted the roots. I set a small wooden bench beneath it and sat for a long time listening to the wind move through the branches. People like Karen think power is something you take. They never understand it's something you earn. At lesson. When someone builds their empire on your land, make sure the foundation still belongs to you.